Not exactly Mr. McCulber. I don't think that something inevitably turns up. But I think that it's a good idea to give something a chance to turn up. So in the meantime, Matt Rothschild of the Progressive asked me if I would write a piece about civil disobedience. And I said, sure. And I didn't forget that I was on the lookout for something that might turn up for this occasion. So I'm going to read my little progressive article about civil disobedience. Matt Rothschild has asked me to write a short piece about civil disobedience. This is a request I would ignore if I had my druthers. But Matt was representing duty, perhaps, and several hours of hard thought have not afforded me an adequate excuse. The reason for civil disobedience, as I understand it, is simple necessity. If you belong to a political side with a significant grievance, and if your side is not represented, is in effect not heard, in the halls of your nominally representative government, then you have two choices. You can passively submit, accepting your grievance as irremediable, or you can, perhaps uselessly, insist by some act of civil disobedience upon your right to have your grievance redressed by your government. I'm speaking here of nonviolent civil disobedience, of course. I subscribe to the commandment to love our neighbors, even if they are our enemies. But I'm also in favor of making sense. Answering violence with violence is understandable, at least by people like me, but it is also nonsense. Matt asked me to write this piece because he knows that last February, in protest against coal mining by so-called mountaintop removal, I committed myself to an act of civil disobedience in the office of Kentucky's governor. In fact, I've made that commitment 3 times. The first was on June 3rd, 1979, in opposition to a nuclear power plant then being built at Marble Hill on the Ohio River near Madison, Indiana. The second one was in Washington, D.C., in collaboration with my friend Bill, on March 2nd, 2009, in protest with a host of others, generally against mountaintop removal, air pollution by the burning of fossil fuels, and immediately against the burning of coal by a power plant within a few blocks of the national capital. The third was on the 11th of last February, the aforementioned attempt to discover conscience in official Frankfurt. Only one of these adventures resulted in actual civil disobedience and arrest. This is why explains my reluctance. After we crossed the fence at Marble Hill, we were arrested and booked and turned loose. In Washington, the number of us offering to get arrested, 2,000 or 3,000 maybe, overwhelmed the police, who, thinking perhaps of the hours it would take to write down our names and addresses, declined the opportunity to know us better. Or so we thought. We then had to choose between climbing the fence, potentially a felony, or after far too many speeches, dispersing. We dispersed. In Frankfurt, the governor, somewhat delightfully, outsmarted us. Instead of calling the police, he invited us to camp in his waiting room, which we did from Friday until Monday morning. And so my career in civil disobedience so far has been an exercise in anticlimax. Also, it has been, by any practical reckoning, pretty useless. Owing probably not much of anything to our civil disobedience, The power plant at Marble Hill finally was stopped, partly by their own bad bookkeeping, partly by their own bad construction. But nothing that my side has done has come anywhere near to stopping mountaintop removal. It would be, or would have been, off the subject of my assignment from the Progressive, but maybe it's appropriate for me to interject here an acknowledgement of an increasing uneasiness that now accompanies my efforts as a conservationist. This has to do with the obvious hypocrisy of burning fossil fuel in order to object to the burning of fossil fuel. I can't find a satisfactory justification for this. We can say that our need is urgent. We can say that our opponents are doing the same things. But that reasoning or rationalization comes straight from the boardrooms